significant. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. See if you follow me closely. What was their food? I mean, we're saying quail, but they were fed with flesh. There was a group of people in the camp of Israel that they were fed with flesh. And there's two things that rain from heaven. Manna rained from heaven. Quail rained from heaven. Have you ever read that Jesus says that the rain falls down upon the righteous and upon the unrighteous? Do you know what the Lord has for the righteous ones? Manna. Do you know what the Lord has for the unrighteous one? Flesh. Flesh. You know, it's interesting. How many here know what manna means? We read it in the text. What is it? Or what's this? Technically speaking, it's like we just read it, you know, what is it? Or what's this? But technically speaking, this is what happened. Moses comes and says, the Lord is going to give you food. Oh, fantastic. They go to the fields. What's this? What was this? It's interesting, huh? In 1844, the Lord brought his people out of spiritual Egypt, gathered them together, and put a prophet of the day. In 1863, for Christmas Day, a Christmas present, the Lord gave to that prophet of the day a vision on health and said that we have to move the people towards a vegetarian diet. And today, among us, there we got people that are complaining to the prophet of the day, as they did to Moses. And when we put a vegetarian dish in front of them, you know what they say? What's this? What's this? Isn't that interesting? That they want to be fed by flesh. They want to be fed by flesh. It's very interesting. Now, we're going to go to a spiritual application. 12 o'clock for those that are checking. Spiritual application, John chapter 6. Now, John chapter 6 and Exodus 16 are parallels. One is the physical and the other one is the spiritual. Are parallel stories. We are going to show you how. In the background of John chapter 6, we have Jesus that crosses over, or what's another word? Passes over to the side of the Gentiles and feeds 5,000 of them. And then the disciples leave that area and they pass over the sea again, now towards Jerusalem. They stop in Capernaum, so they are heading on the way to Jerusalem. Okay? So now there's a group of people that are following Jesus. And Jesus is saying, you don't follow me because of the wonders that you saw back in the spiritual Egypt, Tiberias. You're following me because you want to eat the bread. And we're going to pick up the story in verse 31 of chapter 6. Verse 31 of chapter 6 says, our fathers ate the manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. And then we are going to jump certain verses. Verse 33, follow me closely. Verse 33, for the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. So that physical manna that they were rejecting in the wilderness, the children of Israel, they were actually rejecting whom? They were actually rejecting Jesus. because that the spiritual manna being rejected because they want to be fed by the flesh. Right? How he gave life to the world. How that bread gave life to the world. By being broken. Okay? The bread needs to be eaten in order to give you life. So that bread needed to be broken. That manna needed to be broken. Now come to me, verse 35. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. Where were the two issues in the wilderness? Hunger and thirst. Exodus 16, Exodus 17. Hunger and thirst. But he that come to me shall never hunger, shall never thirst. We heading somewhere. Verse 38. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. Verse 41. Listen to this. Verse 41. Verse 41. The Jews then what? Complained about him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. Verse 43. Verse 43. Jesus therefore answered and said to them, do not murmur or complain among yourselves. Verse 48. I am the bread of life. Verse 51. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I will give you is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. Now, we are heading into dangerous territory now. He's actually defining what that bread is all about. And that bread is his own flesh. And he says that if you eat of this flesh, if you eat of this bread of life, you will have life forever, life eternal. And look what actually happens in the verse 52. The Jews therefore quarreled among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Do you know what they're saying? Jesus is talking about the manna from heaven. If you eat from my flesh, if you eat from this manna, you will live. What are the Jews saying? What is he saying? They're saying, what's this? That's what they're saying. Jesus is saying, eat from me and you'll have life. Eat from my flesh and you'll have life. And the Jews are saying, what's this? Manna. What's this? Manna. Then Jesus said to them, he's going to explain to them what this means. Most assuredly I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. So is this critical? Is this absolutely critical? If we don't eat and drink, if we don't eat of his flesh and drink of his blood, we have no life in us. That's fairly critical, isn't it? So we should know what eating of that bread and drinking of that blood is all about, isn't it? So the way I'm actually going to present it to you is just by using a few scriptures. And few scriptures that are using the word unless. Okay? The first one that I want you to consider is Matthew 18, verse 3. Matthew 18, verse 3. Matthew 18, verse 3, the Bible reads, and said, as surely I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Unless you are converted and become as little children, you by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, I'm going to illustrate this. In John chapter 6, Jesus